In today's Junk Journal with me, I'm going to be working on day 6 of the Junk Journal January prompts. Today's prompt is memory, and I'm going to be using some experimentations that I've done with printing on tracing paper and then also using this envelope. So this was just a card that somebody had sent me, and I really loved the shape of the envelope and knew that I had to put it aside to use in my journals. And it was actually too long for this specific journal, so what I decided to do was just to fold it at the top and the bottom, and then I deconstructed it and cut it apart. You'll see how I do it, in order to make it look like it was always the shape that is going to be in the journal. So I was totally improvising. I didn't really know what I was doing when I was doing this, so hopefully just from watching this, you might see if you'd like to do this with an envelope for your journal, if you've got something that's come in like junk mail or things like that, because they are normally quite long sometimes, that you can still use them in your journal by just chopping them at either side, and that way then you don't get the unevenness of the flap. So sometimes if you were to just chop off all of the length at the bottom, you would end up with a weird shaped envelope, which, I mean, it still kind of works, but if you want to make sure that you maintain the integrity of the shape of the envelope, then this is a way that you can do it. So I don't really know how to explain it. I just sort of chopped the side of the envelope flap itself and then opened it up, cut along the bottom edge to have it all fold out completely, and then folded it in the part where I wanted it to have its new fold, and then used that as the edge to glue it all together. I think it's a lot easier just to watch the process of doing this. So I'm also just making a cut here down the side at a diagonal angle, and that just meant that when I fold it in, you then don't see the folds on the actual envelope, which is how I think normal envelopes are constructed anyway. So there we go, that's my new shape envelope. So it's still that long shape, but it's just short enough now that I can include it within my journal. And I ended up using this as a tip-in. So I love to use envelopes as a fun way to add some pockets and just some extra space into my journal. And I'm just corner rounding here just because there were some sharp edges on that envelope there, but I wanted to have some more space, and I thought that it would be a really fun page to work on. So I wanted to originally just have the front of the envelope and have it be a different shape page, but as you'll see as I work throughout this page, I end up folding the flap of the envelope out so that it actually becomes a full-size page. And then I didn't work on the reverse, so in the next day's prompt then I've got the pocket to deal with, so I'll probably make something to go inside it at that point. So I'm just focusing on one side of the envelope for this prompt, and I wanted to do some collaging because the envelope was very stark white, which didn't really match everything else that was going on the page itself. And I thought about maybe coffee dyeing it, but I wasn't really feeling it. So I decided that the best thing to do would be to cover it with all my bits of collage. And I'm just using a range of different things. So I had that piece of book paper there. I've got some music paper. I've got just these random like labels that I've been having them hang around in my stash for ages, and I've never known what to do with them because they're quite small. So I decided to just tear off some of the strip itself and just use them as a background element. I think because the colour was slightly darker, so there's a bit more of that contrast going on there. Even though that I'm using all neutrals here as a base, I think it still works quite well when it's sort of in the whole colour palette. So I'm just working on adding my collage bits to where there are gaps, and I'm not too worried about like covering it completely. So you'll see that there are areas where the envelope itself is peeking through, but I think once I've come through and added in all the smaller bits, it doesn't matter too much. And some of the like ripped and torn edges, I think, adds a nice organic feel to it anyway, and that scrappy look that I'm really going for with this journal. So I wasn't too worried about everything being like completely uniform and covered. I really like this patterned paper here that I was wanting to add. It felt a little bit too bold, so I only added a little bit of it, and then because the reverse of it was this really nice aged colour, I decided to turn it over and use that then as a plainer element for this piece, because I had quite a lot of text and other visual elements going on, so I wanted to add some balance to the page by adding this blank element, because I knew I wanted to come in with the printed tracing paper afterwards. So I'm just here picking the washi tape that I wanted to use to tip it in to the journal itself, and I'm having great difficulty getting this washi tape off here, but I've just picked this floral piece. It is by the brand MT. It's one of my favorites, and I'm just using this to attach it to the page itself. And so I'm just trying to see where I want it to sit with on the page so that I don't cover up too much of the washi tape that I used on the previous page. And I really like the way that they all kind of mix and match together anyway. And then I turned it over, and just for some reinforcement, I added another strip of washi tape onto the reverse of this as well. And this is also by the brand MT as well. I really love this one, and I don't know, we'll see what I end up doing with that washi and that page when I get to it. Sometimes I do things like that and I'm like, well, that's a problem for future me, and we'll see what I want to do with that page once I come to it. And then I just had this little scrap of floral floating around, and it was the perfect size to add to the edge of the page there, so I just decided to stick it down. So here is what I've printed out for the tracing paper. So I'll leave a link down below, because Mitz from My Life Mitz, she shared a video doing a tutorial on how to print on tracing paper, and it kind of involved attaching your tracing paper to normal paper so that obviously the printer doesn't just eat the tracing paper, because I definitely didn't want to break my printer by doing this. Printing is often a hassle at the best of times, so I didn't want to make it any worse than it needed to be. And so these botanical illustrations, these florals, are from the Graphics Fairy. I'll leave a link down below as well to where you can find these if you want to use them yourself as well. They're just a free download. And so I popped a bunch of them into a Word document to print out, prepped my papers and my tracing paper, printed them out, and look how beautiful they are. I really, really love this, and this actually might become like my new favorite technique for printing things out. And I was even thinking about, you know, the ones that I have just from old books that I just cut out of the originals. I was wondering maybe I could even scan them in, print them out, and then that way then I can still use them like this within my journal. And I think this is a really good technique if you don't want to, or you don't like doing fussy cutting, because you can glue it on top of your page and it almost looks like it is fussy cut without you actually having to do the fussy cutting itself. So I tried a couple of different styles, so with the just illustrations on their own, and then like this one here where it's the image on like a parchment paper-esque background as well. And I think that looks really, really nice as well, because you've got that colour, that beige, that when I actually added it to the page itself, it gave that really nice aged, almost coffee, like tea stained effect, and I think it looked really nice. So I printed out a few, as you'll see here, just to give me a few to choose from. And they came out really crisp. I was worried about the ink smudging, because I just used a normal printer, so I've just got a like really basic 30 quid like Canon printer. It's nothing fancy, it's not inkjet or anything like that. It's just a regular printer, and I was really, really pleased with how they came out. The quality was really nice as well. And so yeah, I think I'll definitely be doing this a lot more in my journals. and I'm really looking forward to using them as well. So this red one here that I'm cutting out is one of the ones that I actually decided to use for this page, and I think because I liked it so much I ended up actually using two. I was going to just use like, you know, the one to have a focal point on my page. That's normally the way that I like to do it, but when I sort of laid them out and decided which ones I wanted to use, I went for one that was looking like it was a print, and then one of the ones where it looks like it was fussy cut, so I could have that sort of contrast between the two. You can see here I'm testing them all out, and honestly I could have gone with any one of them. They all looked really nice, and especially on, I think they work both on the collaged backgrounds as well, but also the plain, like a white background, just because the translucency, it really like blends into the page. Okay, so now I've reached the point where I've decided that I'm going to pull the flap of the envelope into part of the page itself, and then I'm just trimming it here, making sure that it's not sticking out of the journal too much, so that it doesn't get damaged on the edge. And this was just because I actually wanted to extend the envelope and therefore extend the page so that I could include this second cutout here, and I think having it partially on the white background really helped it to stand out. I did end up, as you'll see, ripping off some of the collage that I had underneath, just so that it wasn't too busy underneath, so that I could have the clarity on the detail of some of this floral piece, because it was really detailed. It had like a sort of main illustration, and then there was a little bit of like a sketched outline as well, so I wanted to make sure that all of that came through. And I just really love the layered effect of this page and all the depth and different bits of interest that are going on throughout it. I added a strip of just washi tape up there just because the top corner was feeling a little bit left out, but I also did want to leave some negative space just because the rest of the page was kind of getting so busy. And then whilst I was deciding what I wanted to do for my quote, because I had a quote in mind that I wanted to use for the prompt of memory, but as I was thinking about what I actually wanted to do in order to put it on the page, I was adding some detailing there with my white pen and Neocolor. And so I landed on adding a label to this page, and I just tore it so that I had a bit of a torn edge, and also so that it was the right size for this page. And I wasn't sure whether I wanted it horizontal or vertical, and I decided to go for a vertical one so that I had enough of the detail of the page showing through. And then I just used my Tombow marker here to add the quote, so just a hand lettered one that reads, "Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory." And so I really liked that quote. I think it works really nicely for the prompt of memory, and I also added little sparkles and stars and things as finishing touches. So I really enjoyed working on this page and using the printed tracing paper elements. I think it's a really fun way to add some colour and things to your journal without necessarily adding loads of bulk, because I find sometimes that the books that I'll get secondhand at charity shops some of them have really nice illustrations in them, but oftentimes they can be on quite thick paper. So when you start adding loads of them to your journal, it does kind of bulk up. So I thought that this was a really fun way to have that same effect, but without having that bulk. And then it also saved me a whole bunch of time when it came to actually fussy cutting on the page as well. It just looks so effortless, so I really enjoyed that effect. And then I'm just going around the edge here with a stamp pad just to give a bit of definition to my page. But that is everything for today's page. I hope you enjoyed journaling along with me. As always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.